Well, here we go, boys and girls. It's that time of the year where we're finally going to do the preview of MLS Cup 2022, where tomorrow we will have a new champion that is going to be crowned in the 2022 MLS season between LAFC versus the Philadelphia Union. And I gotta say, this is probably one of the more intriguing matchup and also exciting matchup that I have seen in MLS Cup in recent year. And I know that might sound like a little bit cliche because I'll probably say it again next year when there's going to be another exciting MLS Cup final matchup. But what's interesting about this matchup is that for the first time since 2016, we're going to have a matchup between two teams that is chasing for their first ever MLS Cup, and that, both of these teams, that they have gone through a lot of journeys to get to this point. For LAFC, obviously, the pressure this season with them being MLS Cup and bust, and for the past couple of years kind of failing to do so and get to the promised land and finally do it this year. Whereas for the Philadelphia Union, trying to kind of finish the job that they were left unfinished for the past couple of years, and now reaching to the promised land. And yeah, after 90 minutes or even 120 minutes, or if it's like last season where it went the distance to a PK shootout, one fan base is definitely going to be jubilant, and one fan base will definitely be a little bit disappointed. Well, actually, not a little bit disappointed. That's an understatement. Anytime when you lose MLS Cup, especially if it's going to be in a crushing way, yeah, it's going to definitely sting for a couple of days or maybe even a week. But that being said, tomorrow game will start at 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific, but the actual kickoff is 1:05 p.m. local time. And I'm kind of glad the fact that this game is going to be happening tomorrow, because if this was going to happen on Sunday, and I said this before, and I don't know why MLS keep doing this, but I don't like how this season, the playoffs, most of the games are taking place on Sunday, because you're basically competing with the NFL. And anytime when you, of course, compete with the NFL, yeah, it's definitely going to be something that you're not going to win in the ratings department. And again, I think this game, the time that it's been slotted, it's a perfect time. And not to mention the fact that I know there's still the World Series that's going to happen tomorrow, and that, yeah, this would have been a perfect time. And in some way, I think Fox, they can only put it at this time because I know they also broadcast the World Series, so there was no way this game was going to be in prime time, even though in some way I kind of wish it was going to be, because a matchup between two very lethal attacking kind of teams. And that this could also be an MLS Cup where, usually when we see MLS Cup, it's not always kind of high scoring and maybe like there's one goal or two goals in it. This might be different. I mean, there could be maybe some goals that could be scored in this MLS Cup. But that being said, in terms of the head-to-head meeting, this is actually the fifth all-time meeting between both of these teams. As in terms of the head-to-head meeting, LAFC actually only gets the one win out of the first four, as there was free draw between all or 3 out of the 4 of these meetings turns out to be draw, and that of course is the case for the last 3 meetings. It was a 2-2 draw when they of course met each other earlier this season. Before it was free draw between both of these teams, a 1-1 draw between both of these teams, and then in the first ever meeting, LAFC of course dominated the Philadelphia Union with a 4-1 victory. But this is back when the Union was still in kind of the beginning of the project of starting to become a contender again, after for the past couple of years they still have suffered a bit of a downturn and still hasn't really got over the hump. Now the top goal scored for LAFC, we got Chicho Arango with 16 goals, Carlos Vela with 12 goals, Jesus Cifuentes with 7 goals, or not Jesus Cifuentes, Jose Cifuentes, got the wrong name there. But then you got Mahala Opoku with 7 goals, and then Ryan Hollinshead with 6 goals to finish off the top 5 of the goal scorer. For the Union, you got the big three up front leading the goal scorer, with Daniel Gastak with 22 goals, Julian Carranza with 14 goals, Michael Uro with 13 goals. They got Corey Burke with 7 goals, and their captain Alejandro Bedoya with 6 goals. Top assist leader, unsurprisingly, Vela is top of that list with 11 assists, followed by Cifuentes with 7 assists, Palacios also with 7 assists, Kellen Costa with 5 assists, and Chicharango with 5 assists. For the Philadelphia Union, it's Kai Wagner, who of course we talked about how shocking the fact that it's not every day you see your fullbacks as your one of your top assist leader, but that's kind of what the Union does. They do like to push those fullbacks up, and Kai Wagner has been one of those players that has done well in terms of it, and have dropped absolute dime whenever he's trying to set up set up plays, and it's not surprising that he, of course, ends up with 15 assists, followed by Daniel Gastak with 10 assists, Julian Carranza with 9 assists, Alejandro Bedoya with 6 assists, and Michael Aru with 6 assists to round up the top assist leader for the Philadelphia Union. Now, looking at the 10 key points coming into this game. Now, one interesting thing about MLS Cup, at least for the past 6 years, is that the East kind of have a little bit of an onus toward the Western Conference. I mean, it seems like the last 6 MLS Cup going back to 2016, the East have won 4 out of those last 6, and that include last year when NYCFC, of course, took down the Portland Timbers and becoming the first away team to win MLS Cup since Seattle did it all the way back in 2016 to do so. So yeah, it's definitely, in terms of the history and in terms of the stats, it's kind of favored toward the Eastern Conference, which is kind of interesting because for a while everybody thought that the Western Conference is the better conference, but when it comes to the big game, it seems like the East have been prevailing. So at least that's kind of a good news for the Philadelphia Union coming into this game. Now, as I mentioned, the only meeting this season was a 2-2 draw between both of these teams, and hell, it was an entertaining 2-2 draw. I mean, it was a game between two teams that, again, I said it back in May. If this is going to be an MLS Cup matchup, which it turns out that, of course, is the case, it's going to be a very fun one, and that's why I think it's going to be the same case in this one, where, again, usually in the Cup final, you don't usually see a lot of goals, and maybe things are going to be tight. I don't think that's going to be the case. I think there's going to be goals in this game, and that there's going to be some entertaining kind of stuff in this MLS Cup final, just like what we saw in May 7. Now, it probably might be a little bit tighter because, again, there's going to be that nerves early in this game, especially with the way that, since this is a matchup between two first-time MLS Cup MLS Cup finalists, I think early on maybe there's going to be that nerves of the way that, oh, here we are, we're at the big stage for the first time, and maybe both of these teams might be playing a little bit safe. So, but we'll see whether that, of course, is the case. And that whoever score early in this game, it can really change the complexion of how this game, of course, would look like. Now, the other thing that is a key point is that which big players were stepped up in this big game. Now, this is kind of a bit of a cliche kind of question and a key points, because I say this every time whenever it comes to a big games like this, but it's kind of true, because when it is really kind of the moment of truth and just a cup final like this, you need your big player to step up. So is it going to be Vela? Is it going to be Chicho Arango? Is it on the Union side? Is it going to be Blake once again coming up big in terms of making save, or is it going to be Gastak, the one that going to score the goals like what he has been doing throughout the entire season for the Philadelphia Union? And then, of course, as much as we talk about big name players, we also have seen some unsung hero in MLS Cup. Like we have seen somebody that you definitely did not expect that they were the one that, of course, scored those crucial goals. And I think last year, when you look at the game between the Timbers and also NYCFC, I guess you can maybe say the unsung hero was Felipe Mora, because of him scoring that late goal, and that, again, and Felipe Mora, he kind of got a little bit under the radar a little bit last season, and then, of course, scored that big amount of goals and kind of become a bit of an unsung hero until the Timbers unfortunately aren't able to finish the job and carry that momentum of them scoring a late goal to force extra time and win the whole thing. But yeah, this is going to be a game that there's going to definitely be some unsung hero, and if LAFC is going to be the one to win it, I won't be surprised that there's going to be unsung heroes coming in, because there's definitely some unsung hero you see from this LAFC team. I mean, as much as I know the attention has been with Chicho Arango, Carlos Vela, even Dennis Bouanga, and in some extent maybe even Gareth Bale if he actually does play in this one. I could say maybe guys like Mahalo Poku, a guy that, again, has really been an unsung hero, a guy that has multiple times come off the bench and come up big with this team. And even Ryan Hollinshead, another guy that, hasn't mentioned a lot of being kind of an unsung hero. He could be a guy that could score a big goal for LAFC and be that guy that you wouldn't think that he was going to be the one that scores the big goals to get that team through. So yeah, I think there's definitely that question of who is going to be that unsung hero, who is going to be that guy that you don't expect him to be the one that scored the big goals or create a big moment to keep your team in the game, and that we'll definitely remember at the end of the game. Now, the other thing coming into this game is who will win the transitional moment. Now, what's interesting about this game is that, when you look at tactics wise, transition moment is definitely very important in this game because both of these teams play very quickly on the transition. I mean, we've seen it so many times with LAFC. Like LAFC, I think when they're at their best, they can play any style that they want. You want them to play a bunker kind of style and trying to counterattack? Oh yeah, they can do that. You want them to maybe dictate plays and basically trying to cut teams open? Yeah, they can do that too. Especially when you look at that game against Austin, where again they play a style of play where they would dominate possession. And even though Austin was sitting in a low block, and you usually don't see teams in MLS kind of face against a low block, and they have a lot of success to do so. But that's what LAFC did. Like they completely destroyed that low block that Austin had. Now, granted, Austin in terms of their defensive low block, it wasn't that good. But at the same time, it's quite amazing how they just completely cut that open, and especially with the transitional game. And we can also see some LAFC maybe sit back a little bit and trying to go on the counter, whereas when you look at the Union, we know that they love to play over the top. They like to go vertical on the attack and want to go quickly. And Jim Kern is kind of a head coach, and he doesn't really want to emphasize possession soccer. He always wants to just kind of get it quickly and trying to create chances on the other end. And yeah, that's why I think transitional moment is going to be big in this game, and whoever is going to win those transitional battle is going to be most likely the one that will win this game. And then of course the other thing that's interesting in terms of the tactics wise is clinical finishing. Now I know that sounds again very simple to say that who will be the more clinical side when given the chance to score, and it sounds like a very cliche kind of question, but it's true, because when you look at both of these teams, especially in the conference final, I didn't think both of these teams looked good in terms of their finishing. I mean, when you look at that game between LAFC versus Austin, yes, LAFC did score 3 goals against Austin, but let's be honest, they could have scored much more in that game, and there was certain moments of the game where they kept this one at 1-0 for a little bit too long, and that if Austin could have maybe got themselves one goal and get a sucker punch, then yeah, LAFC could have definitely be thinking about all those missed chances that they had priorly. And this has also been a team that we said before, it's known of missing chances. I mean, we've seen it throughout this season, and so there's times where it has definitely come back to haunt them because of those missed chances that they had. And then on the other end, in the Union side, I mean, in that game against NYCFC, they also had some of those missed chances in the first half and just could not put the ball into the back of the net, and that they finally found things going with them getting themselves 3 goals in the last 30 minutes. But I really argue the fact that the reason why they kind of got going is because of the fact that NYCFC kind of self-destruct themselves, and that the momentum really kind of switched to the Union side, because have NYCFC not concede that equalizer and not just did it in a very dumb way just completely switch off on the set piece opportunity, I argue the Union probably wouldn't have got themselves in a way where they kind of blitz NYCFC and started to score a lot of goals, because we know one thing about this Union team, it's kind of at times still being feast and famine in terms of the attack. And what that means is that at times when they're feasting, that's when they score a lot of goals. But when it comes like famine time, it's kind of the time when they kind of struggle to score goals and struggle to put chances away. And we definitely saw that in the game against FC Cincinnati, where they were definitely struggling, and they kind of looked like the Union team that we saw in the first half of the season, struggle to score goals, struggle to put those chances away when they are given to them. So yeah, that's going to be interesting to see who's going to be the one that will be the more clinical side coming into this game. Now, the other key point is that will Bell and Chiellini be part of this MLS Cup? Now, obviously, I think Chiellini most likely will play some part of it, whether off the bench most likely, but the big question is going to be Gareth Bale, who I don't think he has actually even played a single minute during this playoffs. Now, there's a reason why that, of course, is the case, because, ever since Gareth Bale has come to MLS and have joined LAFC, let's be honest, it's been very underwhelming. Like, he hasn't really done much with LAFC, hasn't made the same impact that maybe LAFC thought that he was going to be. And I think this is also just another great example of how how the league has now moved into a stage where we're not going to see a situation where you maybe get a well-known kind of player from Europe kind of winding down their twilight of their career and gonna be instantly lighting up the league and make some big impact. I mean, as I said before, back maybe about 10 years ago, that could be the case, and that's why MLS is kind of labeled a retirement league. But more times right nowadays, when we have still seen some of these big name players coming in Europe on their twilight of their career and play in MLS, they haven't really had as much success and much effect as what we've seen a couple of years before, and that's mainly because of the way that MLS has really evolved in a league where it's becoming a league that is being more competitive, and that you can't just simply just come into the league even if you have the quality and just kind of dominate the league like you used to seeing. So maybe that's kind of the case we're starting to see with Gareth Bale. But again, there's going to be that big question: will he be part of this team? And again, he's been nursing in terms of some injuries so far, which again, still, the injuries that they mentioned, we don't even know if that's actually true or not, because again, it's kind of odd the fact that he looks healthy for the latter part of the season, and then eventually he kind of becoming a non-factor. So yeah, that's going to be interesting to see whether if he is going to be featured. Most likely, I would say no, because if he hasn't played throughout this MLS Cup, I think it would be crazy if Steve Treadwell is going to try to start him, especially when he has players in his spot that is much better option than what it is. Like, don't just put Gareth Bale there just because you want the media to kind of hype that. Oh, here we go, we got Bale in a big cup final game, even though you can say that he probably doesn't deserve to be there because of the way that I think you can even say in a big way where he's really dropping down the pecking order in terms of the depth chart because of how much of a non-factor he's been during his time with LAFC. Now, on the other end, in terms of injury concern, we definitely had the injury concern with Alejandro Bedoya, and that Bedoya did go in the game between the Union and NYCFC, but yeah, you can definitely see he was nursing an injury. Like, he only was able to limp for the entire half, and that's going to be interesting to see what Jim Curtin is going to do, whether if he is going to do the same thing, because let's be honest, it's pretty clear that Bedoya is playing hurt, and I think he even mentioned it, the fact that when he did come back from that I think it was a hamstring injury that he's been suffering, he came back way too soon, and he actually made it worse, and it feels like it's once again taking an effect in the last game. Now, the good news for the Union is that even though they haven't had Bedoya in this team, they haven't really suffered that much off in terms of quality, and that of course gives a lot of credit to the depth that this Union team has, and especially their replacement in Jack McGlynn has done a very good job in terms of stepping in the role of Bedoya. I mean, McGlynn is nowhere near in terms of the quality of Bedoya, but it's enough in terms of the way where you don't see a huge drop off after they lost such a leader like Bedoya. But that being said, he is still a leader. He when he's on the pitch, this Union team definitely played much better. And again, for Jim Curtin, it's another big decision that he has to make, just like the last game. Does he decide to put Bedoya in there, knowing the fact that at the very best, I would say he probably would once again just go 45 minutes, or do you basically bring him off the sub, or maybe even not playing him and not risking that? I mean, for Bedoya, I'm pretty sure he definitely wants to play in this game, and in some way he'll do everything to try to play in this game. Like, he'll take any painkillers he wants to play in this game, because what he means for him being with this club for a long time and finally has a chance to play in a cup final game like that. But in terms of the fact that if he is not 100%, which he clearly isn't, like, I argue he at best he's probably 75%. You don't want to just put a guy that is only 75% healthy, and knowing the fact that LAFC know that he's not completely healthy, you always see maybe some teams might take advantage of it by trying to testing out. I think LAFC is going to do that. I think they're going to really test Bedoya in this game, and that we'll see whether or not Bedoya can match that intensity, despite the fact that he's clearly playing injured. And then the other thing coming into this game is, will the Union be happy to just sit back and let LAFC dictate plays? And again, this kind of just talk about how exactly what kind of game we're going to see tomorrow. Like, are we going to see where LAFC is just going to dominate possession like they did against Austin and basically find a way to score a goal? And I feel like that might be the case because I have seen some of the Union road games that they have played, and they're kind of a team, again, they're not really a team that, like LAFC, just love to dictate plays. I mean, that's not really Jim Curtin ethos with this Union team, and we even saw it in the game against NYCFC, where NYCFC definitely at times kind of dictate plays and they kind of dominate possession, but the Union does a good job in terms of not allowing NYCFC to have a lot of chances because they have a rock solid defense, and I'm pretty sure that they're going to try to do that same thing, even though I know when you look at the attack compared to NYCFC, LAFC attack is definitely much more stronger and much more better than what we see with NYCFC. So we'll see whether if the Union is going to take that same approach. And again, this goes back to what I said about the transitional moment. If the Union is able to sit back and hit on the counter and able to win those transitional moment and score those goals, then that's where I think the battle is going to win in this MLS Cup. And lastly, in terms of this key points, expect a ruckus atmosphere similar to last year MLS Cup final. I mean, I don't want to say that this is going to be even better in terms of the atmosphere than what we saw last year in Portland, because obviously if Timbers fans are watching this, they will definitely be up in arms and basically give me a lot of negative comments in the comment section below if I say that. But I will say that, you know, between the LAFC fan base and the 3252 supporter group and the Timbers Army, those are some of the best supporter group we have ever seen, and it's such a bless that we once again will have an MLS Cup that is being hosted in a city and in a team that has probably some of the best atmosphere we have ever seen in league history. I mean, it is going to be absolutely rocking at Bank of California Stadium tomorrow, and that, yeah, I expect the atmosphere is going to be very similar to last year. Like last year MLS Cup final, you can definitely see that the atmosphere was off the chart, and that's even when it was a bad weather game. I mean, I expect this game should be beautiful, full weather. There shouldn't be any rain that is in the forecast. I mean, I did check the weather, and again, also, this is LA. It usually never rains there. It should be perfect weather, and also it's kind of good to see that for once we're actually going to have an MLS Cup that has a beautiful weather, because that's not always the case with most MLS Cup playing near November and also even into December. But yeah, this should be an interesting matchup. And yeah, let me know in the comments below, what do you think of this preview? Again, I've gone a little bit extensively in terms of this preview because we are finally at the time where we're going to crown a new champion in MLS Cup, and in about 24 hours, one of these teams will be called themselves as the defending MLS Cup champion of this league. But yeah, either way, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys like, smash the subscribe button. Let me know in the comments below, what do you think of this preview, and also let me know in the comments below what your prediction is going to be. I'm not going to make a prediction because, again, I don't want to jinx one of these teams, but you know, let me know in the comments below your prediction of who is going to be winning MLS Cup 2022 and who is going to win their first ever MLS Cup in franchise history. But until then, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys like, smash the subscribe button, and yeah, I of course will see you guys next time.